You spend much of your life trying to direct everything around you, people, events, even time itself, as though the world is clay in your hands. You plan, you expect, you assume. And though you may not say it aloud, a quiet belief lives in your heart that if you try hard enough, if you care enough, if you worry enough, things will unfold the way you wish. Yet life does not bend itself to desire. A conversation takes an unexpected turn, and someone you trusted wounds you with their words. A carefully built plan unravels in a single moment. A messenger arrives with news you never wanted to hear. Illness enters a home without knocking. A life ends before you are ready to say goodbye. And suddenly, the truth you often ignore becomes clear. So little is actually in your control. But your suffering does not begin with the event itself. It begins with the belief that such things should not have happened. You tell yourself, this wasn't supposed to be like this. They weren't supposed to act this way. My life should not look like this. That quiet sentence, should not, is the birthplace of much of your pain. Nature never promised to follow your expectations. It never swore that your efforts would be rewarded in the way you imagined, or that those you love would stay by your side indefinitely, or that your body would remain strong simply because your will is. The river does not change its course because someone wished it to, and the storm does not pass because a man says it is inconvenient. Think of all the things you try to command, the thoughts of others, the loyalty of friends, the success of your efforts, the course of tomorrow, the behavior of strangers. You press your hands against the world, trying to push it into shape, and when it refuses to move, you feel broken, not because the world was cruel, but because you expected it to obey. Even the most powerful among us cannot command life. Armies cannot hold back death. Wealth cannot buy time. Influence cannot prevent betrayal. The body grows weaker, whether crowned or common. A child's breath can fade in the home of a farmer, or in the walls of an emperor's palace just the same. So what remains for you? Are you powerless? No. You hold dominion, but not over the world, only over yourself. Your thoughts, your choices, your response, these belong to you. No one can force your mind to despair or your heart to bitterness unless you allow it. You cannot control what happens, but you can control how you meet it. During the plague in Rome, countless families mourned. Fires burned for the dead through the night. The streets, weary, silent, empty. Loss did not spare the palace. Children were buried. Friends disappeared. Titles and honor offered no protection. In those moments it became clear, control over life and death is not ours. Yet even then, the mind had a choice, to break or to remain steady, to curse the world, or to accept that sorrow is woven into the fabric of existence. Pain is natural, grief is natural, but to live the rest of your days in resistance to reality, that is a decision. You cannot stop the winds, but you can adjust your sails. You cannot command the outcome, but you can command your soul. The tighter you cling to the belief that everything must go your way, the more the world will feel like an enemy. Peace begins the moment you understand this truth. You were never meant to control everything. You were meant to control yourself. Let go, not in defeat, but in wisdom. What is beyond you was never yours. What is within you is enough. You often feel overwhelmed, not because life is too heavy, but because you are carrying what was never yours to hold. You worry about what people think of you, whether they approve, whether they stay, whether they speak well of your name when you are not in the room. You try to predict tomorrow, to guarantee success, to avoid every mistake, to prevent every misfortune before it arrives. You stand guard at every door, believing that if you remain alert enough, you can stop anything painful from entering. But no amount of vigilance can stop what is meant to come. The river will still rise. The seasons will still turn. People will still choose what they choose. And life, in its own rhythm, will still remind you that you control very little beyond your own mind. It is not your duty to control the world. It is your duty to meet the world with character. The actions of others do not belong to you. Only your response does. Their praise is not yours, nor is their criticism. You are not responsible for the thoughts of others, only for the honesty of your own. You cannot control whether people speak truthfully, but you can choose to speak with integrity. You cannot control whether others are kind, but you can refuse to let their cruelty make you cruel. During the wars on the northern frontier, messages would reach the camp too late. News of ambushes, betrayal within the Senate, cities in revolt, children in Rome taken by illness. There was no way to command fate backward. Yet even among soldiers who had lost everything, some remained composed while others fell apart. What was the difference? Not strength of body, not rank or fortune. The difference lay only in this. Some still remembered what was theirs to govern, and what was not. You think peace will come when the world finally behaves the way you want it to. But peace does not arrive from mastery over events. It arrives from mastery over the self. You spend so much of your life resisting things that have already happened. You replay conversations. You rewrite moments in your mind. You imagine a different past. Yet no amount of thinking changes what has already unfolded. The past is stone, carved, unalterable. The only place your power exists is in this present moment. You also spend your strength trying to control what has not yet arrived. You worry about future hardships, future losses, future pain. But notice, most of your suffering happens not in reality, but in imagination. You live disasters 1,000 times in your mind before they even occur, and most never do. You fear storms that will never touch your house. There is only one place where your power is real. Here, in this breath, in this decision, in this moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, only now. You do not control how long you will live, but you control whether you live rightly while you are alive. You do not control whether you are loved, but you can choose whether you love with sincerity. You do not control whether your efforts succeed, but you control whether your efforts are noble. People search for freedom their entire lives, yet they overlook the only true freedom available to them. Freedom of thought, freedom of attitude, freedom to act with virtue regardless of circumstance. This kind of freedom cannot be taken by chains, by death, by poverty, or by exile, because it does not depend on the permission of the world. It depends only on your will. The greatest tragedy is not that you have so little control. It is that you waste the little you do have. You give your peace away to rumors, to insults, to the unpredictable nature of others. You abandon your mind to every passing disturbance. And yet, if you guarded your inner life the way you guard your possessions, you would suffer far less. The world outside you will always move according to forces you cannot command. The world within you is still yours, if you choose to rule it. And once you understand this, you no longer feel the need to grip so tightly. You no longer feel pulled in every direction by fear. You begin to allow life to be as it is, while you remain as you must be, steady, honest, calm, and free. You suffer more from the things you imagine than the things that actually happen. The mind creates storms that reality never delivers. You expect people to understand you, to speak well of you, to remain consistent, loyal, grateful. You expect your efforts to be rewarded, your kindness to be returned, your plans to unfold in a straight line. And when they do not, you feel wronged, as though life has broken an unspoken agreement. But ask yourself, who made this agreement? Who declared that people would always act with fairness? Who swore that life would stay gentle simply because you have been careful? Much of your pain comes not from life itself, but from the story you tell yourself about how life should be. You tell yourself, they should not have treated me like this. But people act according to their nature, not your expectations. You think, this should not happen to someone like me. But nature does not sort hardships by who deserves them. You say, this was not part of my plan. But your plans do not bind the world. The more tightly you cling to how things were supposed to be, the more you suffer when reality appears. You stand before the world with a script in your hand, and when life refuses to follow your lines, you feel betrayed. But the world was never auditioning for your play. During the years of war, many nights were spent beneath cold skies, with the sound of distant cries and burning villages. Some soldiers accepted the hardship as part of fate. Others collapsed under it, not because their bodies were weaker, but because their minds kept whispering, this should not be happening. The same fire that forges one person destroys another, not because it burns differently, but because they meet it with different thoughts. The mind is powerful. It can turn a simple delay into a disaster, a harmless silence into rejection, a single failure into a lifelong curse. But the same mind, trained and disciplined, can turn loss into strength, chaos into clarity, and pain into a teacher. It is not what happens to you that decides your peace. It is the story you attach to it. You live inside your thoughts more than you live inside your body. If those thoughts are left wild, they will pull you from one emotion to another, like a ship in stormy seas. But if you learn to watch them without being ruled by them, they lose their power to wound. You begin to notice that many of your troubles live entirely in your imagination. You begin to see that reality, without your judgment, is simply reality. Not good or bad, just present. Consider this. Two people lose the same fortune. One curses the gods and falls into despair. The other says, fortune gave it, and fortune took it back. It was never truly mine. They both lost the same thing, but only one lost themselves with it. So much of life is outside your control, yet the part that is yours, the mind, is often the part you neglect most. You train your body, you guard your possessions, you plan for your future, but when it comes to your thoughts, you let them wander as they please. And then you are surprised when they lead you into sorrow. Peace is not found by controlling everything around you. Peace is found by controlling the things within you, your interpretations, your expectations, and the stories you allow yourself to believe. When you stop demanding that life must unfold according to your design, you begin to see it clearly as it is. And in that clarity, suffering loses its grip. The mind creates storms that reality never delivers. You expect people to understand you, to speak well of you, to remain consistent, loyal, grateful. You expect your efforts to be rewarded, your kindness to be returned, your plans to unfold in a straight line. And when they do not, you feel wronged, as though life has broken an unspoken agreement. But ask yourself, who made this agreement? Who declared that people would always act with fairness? Who swore that life would stay gentle simply because you have been careful? Much of your pain comes not from life itself, but from the story you tell yourself about how life should be. You tell yourself, they should not have treated me like this. But people act according to their nature, not your expectations. You think, this should not happen to someone like me. But nature does not sort hardships by who deserves them. You say, this was not part of my plan. But your plans do not bind the world. The more tightly you cling to how things were supposed to be, the more you suffer when reality appears. You stand before the world with a script in your hand, and when life refuses to follow your lines, you feel betrayed. But the world was never auditioning for your play. During the years of war, many nights were spent beneath cold skies, with the sound of distant cries and burning villages. Some soldiers accepted the hardship as part of fate. Others collapsed under it, not because their bodies were weaker, but because their minds kept whispering, this should not be happening. The same fire that forges one person destroys another, not because it burns differently, but because they meet it with different thoughts. The mind is powerful. It can turn a simple delay into a disaster, a harmless silence into rejection, a single failure into a lifelong curse. But the same mind, trained and disciplined, can turn loss into strength, chaos into clarity, and pain into a teacher. It is not what happens to you that decides your peace. It is the story you attach to it. You live inside your thoughts more than you live inside your body. If those thoughts are left wild, they will pull you from one emotion to another, like a ship in stormy seas. But if you learn to watch them without being ruled by them, they lose their power to wound. You begin to notice that many of your troubles live entirely in your imagination. You begin to see that reality, without your judgment, is simply reality. Not good or bad, just present. Consider this. Two people lose the same fortune. One curses the gods and falls into despair. The other says, fortune gave it, and fortune took it back. It was never truly mine. They both lost the same thing, but only one lost themselves with it. So much of life is outside your control, yet the part that is yours, the mind, is often the part you neglect most. You train your body, you guard your possessions, you plan for your future, but when it comes to your thoughts, you let them wander as they please. And then you are surprised when they lead you into sorrow. Peace is not found by controlling everything around you. Peace is found by controlling the things within you, your interpretations, your expectations, and the stories you allow yourself to believe. When you stop demanding that life must unfold according to your design, you begin to see it clearly as it is. And in that clarity, suffering loses its grip. You hold on to many things as though they were permanent, as though your grip alone could keep them from slipping away. You cling to people, to moments, to comfort, to identities, to the idea of who you are and who you are supposed to become. You act as though life makes promises, that those you love will remain close, that your body will obey you forever, that time will pause when you need a moment longer. But life makes no promises. Everything you have is only on loan from nature, and nature will take it back. You live surrounded by things that are constantly leaving, Days, opportunities, seasons, faces, even the ones you cherish the most. You often realize their value only when they are already fading. You speak of loss as if it is rare, but loss is the rule, not the exception. Everything you see, everything you love, everything you are, all of it is passing, changing, dissolving into time. Look closely, and you will see this everywhere. The child you once were is gone, though you still carry the memory. The people you knew are not as they were. Some have changed, some have grown distant. Some are names carved into stone. The laughter in certain rooms has gone silent. The places you once stood no longer hold the same world. The mirror reflects a face that is slowly, quietly aging. Yet you still speak of loss with disbelief, as though nature has broken its order. But loss is not chaos. It is part of the order. You are not being robbed by life. You are simply being asked to return what was never yours to keep. You may love deeply, but love does not mean possession. You may work hard, but effort does not buy immortality. You may plan carefully, but no plan can keep death from your doorway when it is time. There were days in Rome when the streets were lined with funeral pyres, when mothers wept for their children and soldiers for their brothers. Grief was not a visitor, it was a daily companion. Yet even then, one truth stood firm. Sorrow is part of living, and impermanence is not cruelty, but law. When someone you love departs, do not ask why they were taken. Ask instead whether you were grateful during the time they were given. When a season of your life ends, do not cling to it in bitterness, wishing it would return. Honor it by living fully in the season that has now begun. When your body weakens, when strength gives way to age, do not despise it. It is simply nature reminding you of your place within time. You fear loss because you keep pretending things are yours. But how can you lose what you never owned? You are a traveler passing through, given moments, people, and breaths to experience, not to possess. You are like someone admiring the stars. You do not try to take them. You simply allow yourself to be moved by them while they shine. Letting go is not about being cold or unfeeling. It is about loving without chaining, living without clinging, and seeing without demanding that time should stop. It is about opening your hands and allowing life to place things in them and remove them as it chooses. What stays, stays. What goes, goes. And through it all, you remain, not untouched, but unbroken. You cannot stop endings from coming. But you can learn to meet them without fear. You can learn to say, this too is part of nature. This too must be accepted. The grief may still come, the tears may still fall, but beneath it there will be a deeper peace. The peace of someone who no longer fights the turning of the world. You try to control not only what happens, but how you are seen by others. You want to be understood, admired, respected, remembered. You want people to speak well of you, to recognize your efforts, to see your heart exactly as you see it. And when they don't, when they misjudge you, dismiss you, or overlook you, your mind becomes restless, replaying conversations that have already ended, constructing arguments for an audience that is no longer listening. Your suffering grows not from what people do, but from your need to make them see you a certain way. The desire for control often hides beneath the desire for approval. You don't simply want things to go well. You want others to witness it, to applaud it. But what power do you truly have over the thoughts of another mind? Their opinions arise from their own wounds, their upbringing, their fears, their ignorance, their experiences. How much of that could you ever shape? Even if you were to gain their praise today, it could turn to criticism tomorrow. Even if your name is celebrated in this generation, the next may forget it completely. Think of how many men and women once filled the streets, the theaters, the forums, how they too worried about their reputation, their image, their legacy. And now, they are gone, and even the memory of their names has faded into dust. Time swallows emperors and beggars alike. The earth does not whisper their stories unless someone chooses to listen. There were days in the palace when applause filled the courts, when statues were raised and words of honor were spoken. And there were other days, not long after, when those same voices turned cold, when once faithful allies abandoned their loyalty, when the Senate whispered in corners. The crowd that loves you today may scorn you tomorrow. To build your peace upon their approval is to build a temple on water. You think you need their admiration to be whole, but you do not. You think you need to be remembered to have mattered, but you do not. A virtuous act is not made greater because others see it. A kind heart does not beat stronger because it is praised. A life lived with integrity is complete in itself, even if no voice ever says, "Well done." Release the need to prove yourself. Live in a way that would satisfy your own conscience, even if every eye were blind to it. Let your actions be guided by what is right, not by what is applauded. If someone misunderstands you, let them. If someone speaks falsely of you, let them. Your worth is not held in their tongue. Consider how much time is wasted imagining how others perceive you. How much peace is sacrificed to defend an image that lives only in the minds of others. Meanwhile, the present moment slips by unnoticed. The food before you cools. The sun sets without being seen. The sound of laughter in the next room goes unheard because you are too busy rehearsing arguments for an audience inside your head. Let it go. If someone loves you, be grateful. If someone hates you, let them. If someone praises you, accept it with humility. If they condemn you, accept it with patience. Your task is not to manage their thoughts. It is to manage your own soul. In time, you will see that peace does not come from being seen, admired, or remembered. Peace comes when you no longer need any of those things to live with purpose. You spend much of your life wishing things were different, wishing the past had been kinder, the present more manageable, the future more certain. You bargain in your mind with fate, replaying scenes, rewriting outcomes, whispering to yourself, if only it had happened another way. But these words do not change the past. They only injure the present. You think acceptance means surrender, that to accept fate is to grow passive, to stop trying, to become indifferent. But acceptance is not the death of effort. Acceptance is the death of illusion. It is seeing clearly where your power ends and where the power of nature begins. It is no longer wasting strength on battles that cannot be won. The battle against time, against change, against what has already happened. To accept is not to say, I wanted this, but to say, even if I did not want this, I choose to face it with dignity. You breathe easier when you stop fighting the river and learn to move with its current, not away from it. You do not drown by falling into the water. You drown by refusing to let go of the branch. But there is something even greater than acceptance. It is not merely enduring what happens. It is learning to love it. Not with naive joy or blind optimism, but with the understanding that everything that happens is part of nature, and nature does not work against you. It simply works. To love fate is to love reality itself, not as you wish it to be, but as it is. There were nights when news arrived of loss, betrayal, death. A child's life fading in Rome, a friend gone, the empire straining under the weight of plague and war. No prayer could undo it. No decree could change it. In those moments, the heart seeks someone to blame, something to break, some door to close. Yet peace arrives only when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and instead ask, "How shall I respond now that it has?" If you could see the full design of life, the hidden connections, the silent timing of events, you would not want to change anything. You would see why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain moments of pain shaped you into someone wiser. But since you cannot see the whole, you must trust that nature knows what it is doing, even when you do not. You are a thread in a vast tapestry. From where you stand, you see only tangled knots, harsh lines, broken patterns. But step back, if only your soul could, and you would see a work of art. You were never abandoned. You were being woven. So when something difficult comes, do not say, "I wish this were not so." Say instead, "Let this teach me. Let this refine me. Let this shape me into someone worth becoming." There is courage in that sentence. There is freedom in it too. Love what life gives you, not because it is easy, but because it is yours. Love each moment, not because it lasts, but because it happens only once. Love the path, even when it twists through shadows, because it is still leading you forward. You cannot choose everything that happens, but you can choose to love the life you have, not the one you imagined. And that is where peace begins. Not when life finally stops being hard, but when you stop needing it to be easy. You keep waiting for life to become quiet before you allow yourself to be at peace. But life is almost never quiet. There will always be noise, people arguing, plans failing, responsibilities pressing, memories stirring, uncertainties whispering about tomorrow. You think peace will come when the world stops disturbing you. But true peace is learning how to remain undisturbed in a world that never stops moving. You cannot wait for silence outside to find silence inside. Peace is not given by circumstances. It is crafted within the mind. There were moments in the camps along the northern frontier when the winds screamed through the tents at night, when the fires burned low, when news of defeat or betrayal reached us before dawn. There was no silence, and yet even then it was possible to be still, not because the world outside was calm, but because the mind chose not to follow its chaos. You believe everything needs your reaction. Someone speaks harshly, and you feel compelled to defend yourself. A situation becomes uncertain, and you rush to control every thread of it. A plan falls apart, and you chase after the broken pieces, thinking nothing is allowed to fall without your hands catching it. But not everything needs your grasp. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every injustice must be answered by your rage. There is strength in restraint. Stillness does not mean you stop acting. It means you stop acting out of fear. It means you stop letting every emotion drag you like a storm wind across the sea. You can move, speak, decide, yet still remain anchored within. You learn stillness the moment you stop trying to control everything and begin to observe. You watch your own thoughts rise and fall like waves. You notice your anger before it becomes flame. You notice your fear before it becomes paralysis. You do not fight these things or deny them. You simply see them and choose whether to let them rule. You will notice something else, too. Whenever you let go of your need to tighten your grip on life, the mind softens. You stop needing to win every argument. You stop needing everyone to agree. You stop needing the world to bend before your plans. You stop confusing control with strength. You begin to understand that control often comes from fear, while calm comes from understanding. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without trying to possess. You act without demanding the outcome. You work diligently, love sincerely, speak truthfully, but release the need to be rewarded for it. You become like a tree beside the road. People may rest under its shade, carve their names into its bark, or cut it down for firewood. Yet the tree simply grows, season after season, not for applause, not for recognition, but because growth is its nature. When was the last time you simply allowed things to be as they are? When you let others hold their opinions, without feeling the need to correct them? When you allowed a moment of discomfort to pass without scrambling to escape it? When you let time move at its own pace, instead of racing ahead of it? The world may still be loud. People may still be unjust. Plans may still fall apart. But inside, you become a quiet place. And when the world realizes it cannot shake you with its storms, it stops having power over you. Peace does not come to those who finally control everything. It comes to those who no longer need to. You live as though life stretches endlessly ahead of you, as though the days will always return, as though tomorrow is guaranteed. You make plans for months and years, promising yourself that peace will come later, when work is easier, when people understand you, when you finally fix everything that feels broken. But life is not something you own. It is something you are borrowing, moment by moment, and at any moment it can be called back. You move through the days, forgetting how fragile they are. You pass the sunrise without noticing it. You speak to those you love without realizing it might be the last time. You postpone living, as though living is something you will begin to do once the urgent things are finished. But the urgent things never end, and while you chase them, life quietly slips by. You fear death because you believe it is the end of something you possess. But death is not an interruption of your life. It is a completion of it, a part of the same natural order that gave you breath in the first place. To fear death is to fear the very rhythm that allows life to exist. Everything that begins must end. Every breath you take is a reminder that it could have been your last. When you truly understand that time is short, you stop wasting it on things that do not matter. Arguments, grudges, the desire to impress those who do not care, the obsession with controlling how others see you. You begin to ask different questions. Am I living in accordance with my nature? Are my actions worthy of the short time I have? If this were my final day, would I be proud of how I spent it? In the evenings, when the lamps were extinguished and the camp fell into silence, the weight of mortality felt closest, not in fear, but in clarity. You see how foolish it is to postpone virtue until tomorrow. You see how fragile life is, how a single breath separates presence from memory. You see that the only thing you ever truly owned was your character, and even that must be returned to the earth in the end. So why hold on so tightly to things that will vanish? Why obsess over the opinions of people who will one day be dust? Why cling to bitterness when your heart may stop beating before the next dawn? Why live as though you are immortal when everything around you whispers that you are not? Letting go is not just about releasing control. It is about making room for life. When you stop clutching at everything, your hands become free to touch what is here now. You begin to see beauty in ordinary moments, the way light rests on a wall, the way someone laughs without restraint, the way wind moves softly through trees. You begin to feel gratitude instead of entitlement. Instead of saying, "This is mine," you say, "This is here for now." And that is enough. You do not conquer death by denying it. You conquer death by living in a way that leaves nothing important unsaid, nothing meaningful undone. You accept that time will take everything, and so you learn to love everything more deeply while it is here. The fear of death disappears when you stop wishing for more time and start using the time you have. The chains of control fall away when you accept that nothing was ever yours except your ability to choose what is right. One day, your name will be spoken for the last time. Your body will return to the elements. The world will continue. But if you lived with honesty, with courage, with kindness, if you learned to let go and still love fiercely, then you have not simply existed, you have lived. And that is enough. You often think philosophy belongs only to books, to distant minds, to quiet halls where scholars debate. But philosophy means nothing if it cannot step into the chaos of daily life and walk beside you. It must live in the way you speak, the way you respond when someone mocks you, the way you breathe when plans collapse, the way you rise when life knocks you down. Wisdom is not measured in words remembered, but in calm kept when the world grows loud. Letting go is an art that must be practiced in the small moments. When someone speaks to you with anger, you feel the fire rise within you. You want to strike back, to win, to prove you are not weak. But strength is not in the loud reply. It is in the quiet restraint. You let go of the need to conquer every argument, and instead choose to control only your own voice. You make plans, and something disturbs them. The road is blocked, someone arrives late. The task takes longer than you imagined. Frustration appears like a spark. In that moment you have a choice: grip tighter and suffer, or let go and adapt. To let go is not to stop trying, but to stop insisting that your path must remain straight. You move forward, even if the road curves. You give kindness to someone, but they do not return it. You love someone, but they drift away. You do your best, but others do not notice. It is easy to become bitter, to close the doors of your heart. But bitterness is a chain you place upon yourself. You can let go, not of love, but of the need for it to be returned. To act rightly is reward enough. You lie awake at night, replaying mistakes, imagining future disasters, arguing with people who are not even in the room. Your thoughts travel to moments you cannot change, and to moments that may never come. Yet life exists only now, in the breath you are taking. Letting go means gently bringing the mind back to the present again and again, like returning a child who has wandered too far from home. There were days in the palace when decisions weighed heavily, when betrayal crept through the marble halls, when letters from the front spoke of death and defeat. Yet even in such days, the same rule remained: attend only to what is within your power, your reason, your actions, and release the rest to fate. You cannot control the outcome, only the honor with which you face it. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you care fully, and then allow the world to move as it must. You tend to your responsibilities. You speak truth. You love deeply. But you do not imprison your heart in fear of loss. You do not tremble at every change. You understand that everything you have, your breath, your home, your loved ones, even your sadness, is part of a world always shifting, always flowing. Each time you release your grip on what you cannot hold, you become lighter. Each time you choose calm over control, you become stronger. Each time you allow life to move without demanding it obey you, you find a freedom you did not know before. Not the freedom of having everything you want, but the freedom of needing very little. This is the practice. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. In words, in silence, in conflict, in kindness, in joy, in disappointment. Letting go is not something you do once. It is something you become. You search for peace as if it is hidden somewhere far away, in a different city, a different life, a different version of yourself. You think peace will come when everything finally makes sense, when every problem is solved, when the world becomes gentle. But peace is not found by changing the world. It is found by changing the way you move through it. You cannot wait for perfect conditions to begin living. The world has never been free of conflict, nor the human heart free of longing. Yet, even in an imperfect world, you can choose a different way, a quieter way. You can choose to live each day not as a battle to be won, but as a moment to be met with honesty and courage. You will face days where nothing goes as planned, where people disappoint you, where loss feels too heavy. In those moments, remember, life was never yours to control. It was only yours to experience with dignity. You are here for a short time. You do not know how many mornings remain, how many faces you will see again, how many chances you will still receive to speak kindly, to forgive, to love, to begin anew. So while you are here, do not waste your days in anger, in pride, in fear of how others see you. Do not carry grudges longer than you need to. Do not withhold love because you fear loss. Do not postpone joy waiting for a time without pain. There may be no such time. You breathe now. You are alive now. This sunrise, this conversation, this breath, it is enough. When you stop demanding more from each moment, the moment gives you everything. Let go. Not because you have nothing to hold on to, but because nothing was ever truly yours. Let go of the need to be in control. Let go of the belief that you are owed anything by the world. Let go of the weight of the past and the fear of the future. Stand where you are, fully present, and you will see nothing is missing. The world may not remember your name. Time will erase your footsteps. But if today you live with kindness, with self-control, with humility, if you choose to meet life as it is, rather than how you wish it to be, then you have fulfilled your purpose as a human being. And when your final day comes, whether soon or late, you will be ready. Not because you controlled your life perfectly, but because you learned how to let it go.